The private runway is unusually quiet, no engines running, no staff moving. A sleek business jet sits at the edge of the tarmac, door still open, stairs down, but no one boarding. A security vehicle is parked nearby. Its lights aren't flashing, but the message is clear: something has gone wrong. A uniformed guard stands near the jet's wing. His posture is stiff. One hand rests on his belt, but he isn't in control anymore. His eyes keep shifting, from the aircraft to the small group of pilots and staff standing a few meters away. No one is speaking. A pilot lowers his headset slowly. A ground crew member folds his arms. Someone mutters under their breath, "This shouldn't have happened." A few steps away, a man walks calmly toward the jet. No rush, no argument, no raised voice, just steady footsteps on concrete. The guard turns, unsure whether to stop him again or move aside. The confidence he had earlier is gone. Whatever certainty he was holding onto has collapsed. An airport supervisor approaches, phone still in hand, voice tight. This is his aircraft. The supervisor says quietly, not loud enough for everyone, but loud enough for the guard to hear. The words land hard. The guard blinks. The supervisor nods once. The pilot finally steps forward. We've been waiting on him. The guard looks back at the man walking toward the stairs. Recognition hits, not from fame, but from realization, from understanding the size of the mistake. The man doesn't slow down. He doesn't look at the guard. He doesn't explain. He simply passes by as if the obstacle never existed. No one stops him. The stairs creak softly as he steps onto them. The jet door remains open, waiting like it always was. The guard stands frozen, watching everything fall into place without him. No shouting, no threats, no scene, just silence. And that silence says more than any argument ever could. If you were the guard in that moment, would you admit the mistake, or double down and make it worse? The man reaches the top of the stairs and pauses briefly, not to turn around, not to gloat, but to allow the crew to do their jobs. Inside the cockpit, switches flip. Systems come alive. The jet was never delayed because of paperwork. It was delayed because someone confused authority with power. And by the time the guard understood the difference, everyone else was already speechless. Earlier that day, the private terminal looked like it always did, quiet, controlled. Expensive without trying to look impressive. Business jets lined the runway. Pilots checked schedules, ground crew moved with purpose. Everything ran on timing, clearances, and unspoken rules. This wasn't a place for confusion. Everyone here belonged, or they didn't. A black SUV rolled up near the terminal entrance and stopped. One man stepped out alone. No assistants, no luggage handlers, no rush. It was Chuck Norris. He wore simple clothes, a dark jacket, plain shirt, jeans, nothing that screamed status, nothing that tried to prove anything. He shut the door himself and walked toward the terminal with an easy pace, the kind that comes from knowing exactly where you're going. Inside, a security guard noticed him, mid-30s, uniform pressed, radio clipped tight to his shoulder. He had been stationed here long enough to feel comfortable enforcing rules, but not long enough to understand exceptions. The guard watched Chuck approach the restricted access point that led directly to the runway. He stepped forward. "Sir," he said, holding up a hand. "This area is restricted." Chuck stopped. He didn't sigh, he didn't argue, he didn't explain. He simply looked at the guard. "I'm heading to that jet," Chuck said calmly, nodding toward the aircraft in the distance. The guard glanced at the jet, then back at Chuck. He scanned him quickly. Clothes, posture, empty hands, credentials. The guard asked. Chuck didn't reach for a badge. He didn't pull out paperwork. He just stood there. "I don't need one," he said. The guard let out a short breath, half a laugh. "Everyone needs one." People nearby started paying attention. A pilot walking past slowed down. A mechanic glanced over from the fuel truck. The guard's voice got firmer. "Sir, you can't be here without clearance." Chuck nodded once. Not in agreement, just acknowledgement. "Then call whoever you need to call," he said. That landed wrong. The guard straightened. "I don't take instructions from passengers." Chuck didn't correct him. That silence irritated the guard more than an argument would have. "Step back behind the line," the guard said, pointing to the painted boundary on the concrete. Chuck looked at the line, then back at the guard. He didn't move. Now the moment had witnesses. A co-pilot paused near the stairs of the jet. He squinted, clearly trying to place the man standing near security. Something about him felt familiar, but the situation didn't make sense yet. The guard raised his voice slightly. "So this is your last warning." Chuck's tone didn't change. "You're stopping the wrong person." The guard shook his head. "I'm doing my job." That word job gave him confidence. To the guard, authority came from the uniform, from procedure, from the fact that no one ever questioned him here. He reached for his radio. "Control, I've got an individual attempting unauthorized access to the runway." The pilot's head snapped up, unauthorized. The co-pilot exchanged a look with another crew member. Chuck stood still while the call went through. He wasn't offended. He wasn't defensive. He was patient. The guard ended the call and crossed his arms. "You'll need to wait here until this is sorted." Behind him, airport staff had stopped pretending not to watch. A ground crew member whispered, "Is that?" "No," another replied quietly. "It can't be." Chuck glanced toward the jet again. It was ready, fueled, waiting. The guard followed his gaze and stepped slightly to block it. "That aircraft is restricted," he said firmly. "You don't have permission?" Chuck finally looked directly at him. "I do," he said. No anger, no challenge, just fact. The guard scoffed. "Then prove it." Chuck didn't respond. And in that moment, without realizing it, the guard made a decision. He chose procedure over perception, ego over observation. He assumed silence meant weakness, and that assumption set everything else in motion. The guard doesn't step away. In fact, he steps closer. Not aggressive enough to look wrong, not polite enough to look reasonable, just close enough to remind everyone who he thinks is in charge. "Sir," he says again, slower this time, "you need to move back behind the line." Chuck Norris looks at the painted boundary on the ground. Then he looks past it toward the jet, the stairs still down, the cockpit dark and waiting. He doesn't move. The guard exhales through his nose. "I'm not asking." A few staff members stop what they're doing. The energy around the terminal shifts. People sense friction before it turns into conflict. A pilot walks a few steps closer. "Is there a problem?" he asks, neutral. The guard answers without looking at him. "This gentleman doesn't have clearance." Chuck remains silent. That silence works against him here. The guard takes it as confirmation.
"See, no badge, no pass, no paperwork."
He turns back to Chuck. "Last chance." Chuck speaks calmly. "You're delaying a flight." The guard laughs, short and sharp. "Flights get delayed all the time." He gestures toward the jet. "That aircraft isn't going anywhere until this is sorted." Behind them, a ground crew member whispers to another, "Why is he so calm?" "I don't know." The other replies, "But I've never seen anyone stand like that unless they know something." The guard hears none of it. He keys his radio again. "Control, I need a supervisor at Gate 7, individual refusing to comply." The word refusing hangs heavy. People nearby glance at Chuck now, curious, uncertain. Some expect him to argue. Others expect him to explain. He does neither. The guard shifts his stance, widening his feet. It's subtle but revealing. He's preparing for resistance, even though none has been shown. "Sir," the guard says, louder now, "if you don't step back, I'll have to escort you out." Escort. That's the line he's chosen. The pilot stiffens. "You might want to." "I've got this." The guard snaps, cutting him off. That interruption matters. The pilot steps back, jaw tight. He looks toward the jet, then back at Chuck, confusion giving way to concern. Chuck finally looks directly at the guard. Not challenging, not angry, measured. "You don't want to do that," he says. The guard bristles. "Threatening me now?" "No," Chuck replies. "I'm warning you." A pause, not dramatic, uncomfortable. The guard laughs again, but this time it's forced. "You don't scare me." Chuck nods slightly, as if acknowledging the statement. "I know," he says. That answer lands wrong. A supervisor's voice crackles faintly over the radio, asking for clarification. The guard ignores it. He reaches out, not to grab Chuck, but to place a hand on his shoulder, guiding him back. A mistake. Chuck doesn't react aggressively. He simply turns his shoulder just enough that the hand doesn't settle. No force, no speed. The guard blinks, surprised. "Don't touch me," Chuck says quietly. The guard's face tightens. "Now people are fully watching. This is your last warning," the guard says, louder than before. Chuck doesn't step back. He doesn't step forward. He stands exactly where he is. The jet crew exchange looks. One of them mutters, "This is about to go very bad." The guard raises his voice. "Sir, step away from the restricted area now." Chuck's response is immediate. "Call your supervisor," he says. "I already did." "Then wait." The guard scoffs. You don't give orders here. Chuck meets his eyes. Neither do you. That's when the guard loses patience. He steps directly into Chuck's path, arms out, blocking the runway access completely. People stop breathing. The escalation isn't physical, it's psychological. The guard believes the uniform protects him. Chuck knows something else is about to arrive, and the longer this drags on, the worse the outcome becomes for the guard. The guard stays planted in front of the access point, arms out, feet set, certain he's doing the right thing. What he doesn't notice is how the space around him begins to change. Not louder, quieter. A pilot steps a little closer to the jet stairs, eyes fixed on the man being blocked. He frowns, then looks down at the guard's badge, then back at the man again. Something doesn't match. The co-pilot murmurs under his breath, "That looks like." He stops himself. A ground crew member, older than the rest, tilts his head slightly. He's seen plenty of Veeps come and go. He's also seen the difference between confidence and certainty. This is certainty. The man standing in front of the guard doesn't look annoyed. He doesn't look rushed. He doesn't look like someone trying to talk his way past a problem. He looks like someone waiting for the right moment. The guard mistakes that calm for hesitation. "Sir," he says again, voice firm, "I'm not moving." The man nods once, not approval, not agreement, acknowledgement. Behind them, the jet's captain climbs down one step from the stairs, pretending to check something on his tablet while getting a better look. He freezes for half a second. Then his eyes widen, just a little. He straightens immediately and looks around, as if checking whether anyone else is noticed. They haven't, yet. The captain clears his throat. "Is there an issue here?" The guard answers quickly. "Unauthorized access." The word feels wrong the moment it's spoken. The captain looks at the man again. "Sir, are you?" The guard cuts him off. "I've got it handled." That interruption doesn't go unnoticed. The captain's jaw tightens. He steps back but doesn't walk away. He stays within earshot. The man finally speaks again. Calm.
"Even you should let them do their jobs," the guard scoffs. "I am doing my job."
The man glances briefly at the jet, then back to the guard. "So are they." That short exchange triggers something subtle. A few staff members stop pretending to work. A supervisor on the far side of the terminal lifts his phone again, speaking in low tones. A mechanic whispers, "Why would he be here alone?" The guard senses attention but interprets it as support. He straightens more, raises his chin. People watching can see the difference now. One man is holding authority tightly, afraid to lose it. The other isn't holding anything at all. The jet door remains open, stairs still down, engines quiet, waiting. The guard's radio crackles. A supervisor asks for clarification again. "Describe the individual," the voice says. The guard looks Chuck up and down. "Male. Casual clothing, claims he owns the aircraft." The sentence draws a reaction. The captain exhales sharply through his nose. A co-pilot mutters, "Oh no." The guard doesn't hear it. The man hears everything. He reaches into his pocket. Not quickly, not dramatically, and pulls out his phone. He doesn't show it to the guard. He makes a short call. "I'm at the gate," he says.
"Yes, still."
He ends the call. No explanation, no threats, just patience. The guard laughs, trying to keep control. "Calling a friend won't help you." The man looks at him. "I know." That answer lands heavier than expected. The supervisor on the far end of the terminal starts walking toward them now, faster than before. The captain steps down fully from the stairs and stands beside the jet. He doesn't intervene, he waits. The guard notices movement but ignores it, convinced he's already committed too far to step back. This is the moment where pride replaces judgment. The man doesn't push, he doesn't provoke. He simply stands there while signs pile up around the guard like warning lights. The uniformed authority still believes time is on his side. It isn't. At this point, should the guard step back and reassess, or double down to save his ego? The answer is already forming, and it won't be spoken by the man being blocked. It will be delivered by everything that arrives next. The supervisor is walking faster now, not running, not panicking, but no longer casual. The guard notices him in his peripheral vision and straightens instinctively, as if posture alone can lock in authority. He doesn't turn around. He doesn't want interruption, not now. He's already committed. "You need to step back." The guard says again, louder than before. This is a restricted area. The man doesn't respond, he doesn't argue, he doesn't negotiate, he simply stands where he is. That refusal, silent, unmoving, hits harder than words. The guard's jaw tightens. He glances at the jet, then back at the man, irritated that something so simple is taking this long. "I'm not asking again," the guard says. The man looks at the guard's hand. It's hovering near his arm, not touching yet, a warning sign. The guard mistakes the look for hesitation. He reaches out, not aggressively, not violently, just enough to guide. That's the moment everything changes. The man shifts his weight half an inch. The guard's hand never lands. It doesn't get swatted away. It doesn't get grabbed. It just misses. The guard blinks, confused by the absence of contact. He tries again, firmer this time. His fingers brush fabric. The man's arm moves, not fast, not dramatic. But suddenly the guard's wrist is no longer where he expects it to be. There's pressure, not crushing, not painful, controlled. The guard freezes. His eyes drop to his own wrist, caught at an angle that doesn't hurt yet, but could. The crowd holds its breath. The man leans in slightly, voice low enough that only the guard hears it. "Stop," he says. One word, no threat, no explanation. The guard swallows. He feels the imbalance now, not physical, mental. This wasn't in the training manual. He pulls back instinctively. The man lets go immediately. No resistance, no display. The guard stumbles half a step backward, more shaken by what didn't happen than what did. "Don't touch me," the man says calmly. The guard's face flushes. People are watching now. Pilots, crew, terminal staff, even passengers on the far side of the glass. The guard raises his voice, trying to reclaim the moment. "You just made this worse," he says. "Step away from the aircraft now." The man doesn't move. He looks past the guard to the jet, to the stairs, to the captain standing rigid near the door, then back to the guard. "You've crossed the line," the man says. The guard laughs, sharp and defensive. "You don't decide that." The supervisor is close enough now to hear everything. He slows. He takes in the scene. The man blocking the runway. The guard standing too close. The jet still waiting. The guard takes another step forward, trying to reassert space. The man doesn't retreat. He doesn't advance either. He simply stands his ground. The guard reaches for his radio. "Control," he says, voice tight. "I need immediate assistance." Individual is refusing. The supervisor speaks for the first time. "That's enough." The guard turns sharply. "Sir, this man, stand down," the supervisor says. The words don't register immediately. The guard blinks. "What?" "I said stand down." The guard looks between them, stunned. "He tried to." The supervisor raises a hand. "Calm, firm, step aside." The guard hesitates. This is the final choice: follow procedure or protect ego. He steps back. Just one step. The man moves forward immediately, not rushing, not triumphant, purposeful. He passes the guard without looking at him, without acknowledging him. The guard turns, breath shallow, watching control slip out of his hands. The supervisor exhales slowly and pulls out his phone. "Sir," he says to the man, voice respectful now. "We're ready when you are." The man nods once. That's it. No speech, no lecture, just consequence. The spark didn't explode into chaos. It burned clean. And everyone standing there understands something now. This was never about force. It was about the moment authority realized it chose the wrong person to challenge. The supervisor walks past the guard without another glance. That alone says everything. He stops beside the man who had been blocked moments earlier and lowers his voice, respectful now. "Sir, apologies for the delay. We're clear." The guard turns sharply. Clear for what? The supervisor doesn't answer him. Instead, he gestures toward the jet. The captain straightens immediately. He steps forward, professional but visibly relieved.
"Good to see you, sir," he says.
"We've been waiting." The guard's brow furrows. He looks from the captain to the jet, then back to the man. "Waiting for who?" he asks. No one responds. The supervisor finally turns to face him. This aircraft belongs to him. The words land without drama. No raised voice, no announcement, just fact. The guard stares. "That's not possible." The supervisor holds his gaze. "It is." The captain nods once. Ownership and clearance are confirmed. The guard opens his mouth, then closes it again. He looks toward the jet as if seeing it for the first time. The stairs, the open door, the crew standing ready. Everything that felt ordinary moments ago now looks different. The guard swallows. "I didn't know." No one corrects him. Because it doesn't matter. The man, still calm, still composed, walks toward the stairs. Each step is unhurried. Not because he wants attention, but because he doesn't need to avoid it. People around the terminal stop pretending not to watch. Ground crew pause mid-task. Pilots lower their voices. Staff stand still. The guard remains where he is, frozen. The supervisor steps closer to him. "You were warned," he says quietly, not accusing, just final. The guard's shoulders slump slightly. The confidence that held him upright earlier is gone now, replaced by realization. He had authority. He misused it. The man reaches the bottom of the stairs and places one foot on the first step. He pauses, not to look back at the guard, not to acknowledge the crowd, but to speak to the captain. "All set?" he asks her. The captain replies. The man nods and continues up. Inside the cockpit, switches flip. Lights come on. Systems wake up. The jet responds instantly, like it always was meant to. The guard watches from the tarmac as the door closes. That sound, the dull, final seal of the aircraft, hits harder than any argument. The supervisor pulls out his phone and speaks quietly, already moving on. "File the report," he says, "and make sure this doesn't happen again." The guard doesn't protest. He can't. There's nothing left to defend. The jet engines start. Not loud, not aggressive. Controlled, the aircraft begins to taxi slowly, smoothly toward the runway. People step back automatically, giving it space. The guard stands alone now, separated from the scene by distance and consequence. He replays the moment in his head, the silence, the refusal to argue, the calm warning he ignored. He realizes something too late. The man never tried to prove who he was. He didn't need to. The jet turns onto the runway. The engines rise in pitch. The sound rolls across the tarmac, steady and unstoppable. As the aircraft accelerates and lifts into the air, a ground crew member exhales quietly. "I've never seen that handled like that." Another replies, "That's because real authority doesn't fight." The sky swallows the jet. The runway returns to normal, but the lesson stays behind. Because everyone who witnessed it understands now, power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't explain. It doesn't beg to be believed. It waits, and when the moment comes, it moves forward, and everything else steps aside. The runway goes quiet again, engines fade into the distance, staff return to their tasks, radios crackle with routine instructions. From the outside, it looks like nothing happened. But for the people who were there, something changed. The guard remains where he is for a moment longer than necessary. His posture is different now. Not defensive, not confident, just still. He watches the empty stretch of runway where the jet disappeared, replaying every second in his mind. He thinks about the warnings he ignored, the signs he dismissed, the calm he mistook for weakness. He followed procedure the way he understood it, but without judgment, without awareness. And that's the part that stays with him. Across the terminal, people speak in low voices. "Did you see that?" He never raised his voice. He didn't have to. No one talks about strength. No one talks about intimidation. They talk about composure. Because what ended the situation wasn't force. It was certainty. The man never demanded respect. He never explained who he was. He never tried to win the argument. He simply stood his ground and let the truth arrive on its own. That's the difference most people miss. They think power is something you prove, something you show, something you defend loudly, but real authority doesn't chase validation. It waits. The guard finally turns away from the runway and walks back toward his post. He doesn't look angry. He doesn't look embarrassed. He looks educated. Because the lesson didn't come from punishment, it came from realization. The terminal settles back into its rhythm. Another jet prepares for departure. Another crew checks paperwork. Another guard takes position near the line on the ground. But that line looks different now. It's no longer just paint, it's responsibility. Because authority without awareness becomes arrogance. And arrogance always challenges the wrong person eventually. Some people learn that lesson quietly. Others learn it in front of witnesses. The man on the jet won't remember this as a victory. For him, it wasn't a conflict. It was a delay, and delays end. If you were in that guard's position, would you have paused to reassess, or pushed harder just to protect your ego? That question doesn't belong only to him. It belongs to anyone who's ever worn a uniform, held authority, enforced rules without reflection. Because the moment you stop listening is the moment you stop leading. The runway clears, the sky stays open, and somewhere between procedure and perception, a simple truth remains. Respect isn't demanded, it's recognized. And the people who understand that never need to explain who they are.